Hey there everybody, it's markcrilley. I'm back with another video. This is the third and final installment in my series of videos showing my travel diary that I created during a trip to Nepal and India back in the year 1990. Now last time we left off with this illustration showing the beautiful clothing that I saw women wearing in India, and I think last time I may not have had the chance to show this preparatory sketch that I did prior to getting to work on the illustration itself. It's sort of interesting to compare the two of them. Oh, can you hear my dog barking down there? Hey Joy, I'm trying to shoot a video up here, all right? Anyway, thought you might enjoy seeing that. But now it's time to move on to new illustrations that I haven't shown in previous videos. This one really sort of a transitional page. From Varanasi, I traveled west to Udaipur, making many stops along the way. So here you can kind of see the journey on a literal map, having started in Varanasi, which I reached coming down through Nepal. Headed over to Agra, onto Jaipur, Pushkar, and then Udaipur. Now Agra, of course, is famous for the Taj Mahal, and I thought I would take this chance to show you how years later I did a book, a sort of young reader novel called Billy Click, Creech Battler. And I decided to have that story set in India. And you can even see I included faintly in the background the Taj Mahal, but I did at one point do a double-page illustration in which I really showed the Taj Mahal in all its glory. And this was really because of my memories of having gone there and visited the Taj Mahal in person. This is the original illustration here, watercolor and colored pencil. I thought you might enjoy having a peek, even though this is not from the travel diary, but in a way it captures my memories of having visited the truly glorious building and the whole area, really, of the Taj Mahal in Agra. Let's move on now, though, to the next page. Might have to refocus the camera. This one, entitled A Very Distinctive Mode of Transportation. This is another one where I can show preparatory sketch work from this handy-dandy book that I bought. Asha, I think I bought this in India. It says 25 on it. I think that's 25 rupees. But here you can see the preparatory sketches of the camels. This would have been drawn on site, you know, from actual camels that I saw. I think probably in Varanasi. Some of this stuff is foggy in my memory, but you can see how I combined the two of them together to form this illustration. Onward to the next page. One quickly becomes familiar with all the soft drinks available in India. Now, times have changed, and I think maybe the situation is different now than it was back in 1990. I'm guessing it is. But at that time, there were kind of almost literally 5 different soft drinks that you could get as you went around to the different shops in India, and they had these interesting names. Gold Spot, that was the sort of orange-flavored soft drink. Thumbs Up and Campa Cola, both of these different variations on a cola, as I recall. Limca, this was my personal favorite, a sort of lime-flavored drink, and 7th Up. So, I don't know, are they still making 7th Up and Campa Cola? Let me know if you are in India. In America, I think those would fall in for copyright infringement. They seem so close to the drinks that they're imitating, but who knows? I don't know enough about copyright law to really speak on that. Indians have an interesting approach to standing in line. Now, I hope no one will take offense to this. This is very exaggerated, but I certainly did encounter in my various travels in India people not forming a line of any kind, but just sort of piling up, and then, you know, it was survival of the fittest almost as you fought your way to the front. I suppose there may have been some informal system that I was not aware of, but couldn't resist trying to capture, at least to the American standing back behind all of this. You're just like, oh my goodness, how am I ever going to get to that ticket window? And this is one of my favorite illustrations out of the whole book. Let me pull back just a little so that you see the whole of it. Some Indians seem to have changed little over the centuries, and here I have 500 years ago and today. And if you look carefully, you will note that he has a wristwatch and glasses here. Maybe a slight exaggeration, but I did feel like I saw such people while I was traveling through India. Were like, wow, just looking at this person, I don't see any sign of the modern world. You know, the traditions of the past seem to have continued unchanged. And maybe out of the whole travel diary, this is the one that reminds me the most of maybe children's picture book illustration or something like that. You know, I had an idea, and I used illustration to put the idea across. And I was always kind of pleased with how that one turned out. But sadly, things changed after this. On June 14th, 1990, my journey came to a halt. And that's when I found that I had contracted hepatitis somewhere along the way, and became so physically ill that I had to end my journey and go to the hospital. Man, I don't feel so good. And of course I tried to maybe see the lighter side of it by doing this. Looks like an old comic book version of myself, I suppose. Very cartoony. Trying to laugh at it, but it was not a funny situation in real life. I spent the next 12 days in a hospital in Bombay recovering from jaundice. And indeed, I was in an airport on my way to Hyderabad, where I was going to have a sort of job at the YMCA, volunteer work. And I had finally reached the last leg of my journey. I'd been feeling bad for a week or two, my condition kind of getting worse and worse, and while I was at the airport, some stranger next to me in line or something turned to me and said, you know, you look like you have jaundice. You should check with the airport doctor to make sure that you're okay. And very grateful to the person who, I don't think I even got his name, but he got me to wise up and say, hey, I'm not just a little under the weather. Maybe I've got something very serious here. And indeed, I spent 12 days in a hospital in Bombay. I was not suffering in terms of pain or agony or anything, but just boredom, really. Bed rest for 12 days was what was needed to make me well enough to fly back home. And that, unfortunately, you can tell I did not intend for my travel diary to end this way, but I had to reflect the reality of what had happened. On June 26th, 1990, I got on a plane and flew straight back home. The journey ends. And somewhat abruptly, we come to this illustration of my brother's house at the time. He doesn't live there anymore, but at the time, when I finally finished this thing, I was able to say, now I'm living with my brother in St. Paul, getting ready for my next journey, which turned out to be quite true. I was there staying with my brother in St. Paul, Minnesota for, I want to say 4 months or so, something like that. It was the fall through to the early winter of 1990. And I was getting ready for my next journey because I ended up going to Japan and beginning a whole new chapter of my life. But that brings us to the end, the final illustration in my travel diary. And I hope, you know, those of you who watched these 3 videos, you saw the entirety of my travel diary. And it remains unpublished, but who knows? Maybe someday I can take all these illustrations, maybe combine them with new illustrations and some writing about my memories. One last thing I wanted to mention, and it's kind of ironic that I did not talk about this during the course of the video, but one of the most amazing places that I visited when I was in India was this place called Mount Abu, which has just phenomenal architecture, and maybe I can sort of splice in some images of these temples that I saw. in this resort town up in the mountains. I don't know if I should call it a resort town, but it certainly was a tourist destination, and just remarkable. Maybe the detail, the sheer detail of the architecture prevented me from doing any illustrations to talk about it or to show people in the travel diary. But if you are in India or planning a trip to India and are anywhere near that sort of Udaipur, Jaipur area, Rajasthan, I would say, hey, check out Mount Abu. Probably the most mind-blowing of all the different incredible architecture that I saw while I was there in India. But I think it's time now for me to wind down this video. I want to thank you all for watching it. I really hope you enjoyed it. And I'll be back with another one real soon.